Hi, and welcome to the 19th episode of the Running with Kelly podcast, where we talk about all kinds of running stuff. My name is Coach Kelly, and I'm a level 2 RRCA certified running coach. And joining me today is a guest we've had on a couple of times, Nick Budinski. Nick has been on to talk to us about his sub 3 hour Boston qualifying time race and some of the stuff he had done in 2023. And he also joined us I want to say a month ago on a podcast where we had a conversation with Samantha Hansey, who is a mental health counseling professional. And she gave Nick, I think, a lot of great ideas. So today we're a week out from his goal race for 2024. So I thought it'd be fun to have him on and talk about some of the great things that went exactly as planned and some of the things that weren't as great and kind of changed plans a little bit. So that said, let's hear it for Nick Budinski.
All right.
So Nick, I have on this slide, it says, when defeat comes, accept it as a signal that your plans are not sound. Rebuild those plans and set sail more toward your coveted goal. By Napoleon Hill. So I had never heard that quote before, but I really liked it and thought, that's kind of
Yeah.
like what we had to do with you. Do you want to tell
Yeah.
us about it?
Yeah, that definitely I think sums up this training cycle. I mean, it was completely different from anything I've ever done for a marathon prior to this. And yeah, I mean, I guess we started out like we always do with, a 5 day a week running plan, and it seemed to be starting out okay. We were building miles up, and I would say maybe about a month in, I don't even know what happened, but somewhere along the line, I kind of tweaked my knee, and I kind of have been dealing with this knee, I don't want to say injury, but knee pain or knee discomfort, kind of ever since then. So at that point, in the training, we definitely had a pivot and kind of regroup and reconsider what we were doing and kind of just see how we can move forward the best we could.
Yeah, and you did a great job kind of with recalibrating, I guess, or refocus on a different way of training. There's a lot of coaching philosophies out there, and we were using one where mileage is your best friend and trying to get a good amount of miles in, and then being able to have your three main types of workouts plus two other easy pace days. And then I know you saw a chiropractor too who said, maybe run 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's a whole book about it called The First Run Less, Run Faster, that uses 3 days of running. It's not 3 days of running, 4 days of rest, but
Mm-hmm.
3 days of running, a couple of days of other type of cardio, and some rest. So the bottom thing there kind of just shows what we had changed to, which is resting with lots of foam rolling and hip work, a VO2 max workout, more cycling, threshold run, rest, long run, more cycling. So how did your body respond to the change?
I think it went pretty well, to be honest. I think even prior to this training cycle, I think my body type is just the kind that doesn't really respond well to a higher mileage. Even in the past when I was in maybe high school or cross country, whenever I seemed to increase my mileage was when I started to get these aches and pains, these little flare up of injuries. So I don't know. I think taking less impact off my knees definitely helped ease that pain that I was experiencing. And switching over to the bike, it was definitely brand new for me. I don't really do a whole lot of biking prior to this. So I didn't really know what kind of pace or how fast I should be going on the bike. I just knew I had to get my heart rate up somehow. So, I was really kind of just going for a little bike ride and just seeing where it took me.
Now, this has been happening through, there's not been the best of weather. So the bike you were doing is stationary, correct?
Stationary. Yep. Yep. It was all indoor cycling. Yep.
Nice. And
Hmm.
how do you, I mean, did you like it? Did you find it like you could keep this as a, extra tool in your back pocket?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it was definitely what I needed to do. for me, it was a little boring, but it went by fast. I was able to kind of zone out and kind of just, it was, I mean, I guess it was really no different from running on a treadmill, It was, I was probably going to be stuck inside on the treadmill for most of these days anyways throughout the winter. So it was really, I guess, just, the monotony of not going anywhere and just staring at the same spot on the wall, which I would experience on the treadmill anyways.
So can I ask, when the injury first happened, I'm just
hmm
looking at the date on that second plan. It looks like
hmm
it was February 19th-ish was the last week of your former plan. I think that's when we had to skip some things. And the first week of the change was February 26th, it looks like.
I think it was
So
a little bit earlier because it was
earlier
the
than that.
week prior to Cupid's Cup that I kind of just stopped running entirely up from like that Tuesday workout to the race on that Sunday. I didn't run at all. And it was after that that I think we started tweaking some things.
Yes. Did you feel like your training block was gone? Like, did you feel like, well, this is not going to work?
Yeah, I mean, for this being my like seventh marathon, this was the first time I've kind of had to deal with something that was potentially something that could sideline me for a significant amount of time in this training cycle. I mean, when the knee pain started, I was still over 2 months out from the marathon. So I knew I could, take the time I needed to rest and recover and still go and run this marathon. But I was really, really scared of how much progress I was going to lose during that time I would have taken to rest. So, um, finding a way to make it work was really put me at ease because I really thought, being my knees, I was like, oh, this is it. I can't run a marathon on bad knees. So I thought I was done for kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a kind of a team. Like
hmm
you had the chiropractor, you had me, you had Sam for some of it. Do you
Yep.
think that was much more helpful than being alone?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because I think if I was alone through all this, I probably would have just said, well, try again in 6 months kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, hmm
One, so it wasn't, let's see, yeah. So February 26th is when we made the changes, and
hmm
and as your coach, you responded really well to the changes. Like you really did. I couldn't believe, I think you said you did 19 miles on your 45-minute ride. I'm like, what? A
Yeah.
lot. Um, but you responded well running wise too. I just switched the screens here and we saw you had a PR at Johnny's. I know that was I think that was right after a conversation with Sam too,
Yeah.
from
Yep.
our last podcast, having a huge PR,
hmm
and a big, you bettered your time from the last time you ran this race by
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
2 minutes or more than 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what were you thinking during this race? And like when you got to the start line, were you thinking, okay, I'm only running 3 days a week?
Yeah.
Look what you did. Look what you pulled off.
I think when I got to the starting line that morning, um, I was kind of in a mindset of like, all right, let's just see how this goes. This isn't my goal race. So if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and we learn from this and we move forward. This isn't like there's no pressure on this race. Obviously I want it to go well. But I kind of had no expectations for myself. I kind of just went into it to see what I could do. And I definitely tried some of the techniques that we had talked about with Sam a couple nights prior to that. And I think it just like the mental strategies that we had discussed that I tried kind of really helped me get outside of all my fear and anxiety that I usually have going into a race. I remember, I think the night before, I actually did some journaling and I like asked myself the question, like, why am I so scared of this race? What is this anxiety and where is it coming from? Um, and I don't even remember what I journaled about, but I remember that when it was all done, once I got those feelings down on the paper, I felt like less anxious about this race and I felt better about it. And I felt like I could go and have some fun and not even, all those things that I had been worrying about were gone kind of thing. So I think that was a big part of kind of just getting myself in the mindset for this.
And I know you ran the race without a certain piece of technology.
Without my watch. Yep.
How did that feel? Like, was it nerve-wracking?
Yeah. So I mean, I remember running the race feeling naked. I was like, I don't know what my pace is. I remember coming up to the first mile and hoping that someone near me would shout out what our split was. And when no one did, I was like, come on, guys, can someone help me out here? I'm running blind here. Um, but yeah, I just remember just going completely off of feel. So I think the first mile I went out fast. I have no idea, because obviously I don't have my splits
Yeah.
recorded, but I think I was just running on adrenaline for that first one. And then I kind of got into a little group of people. So I was trying to stick with them for the second and third mile. And then when we turned around to start coming back, it was just like, all right, hold on, just keep running as hard as you can and see what happens. So
And we saw what happened. So when you finished, did you know that you PR'd, or did it take a little while? I know I caught you towards, at the finish area.
Yeah.
Um,
So I knew I had looked up, and this was another thing too, before I'd even left for the race that morning, I wrote down um like a good goal and then a great goal. So for me, the good goal would have been beating the time from the last time had run it. So that was what, like 31 something, like 31,
31:50, I think. Yeah.
yeah, something around there. And then the great goal was to try to beat my best time on this race, which was 29:40 something. So I had known what my previous times were. So I remember coming up that long hill, because it ends on a long hill now, and just seeing the clock and being like, oh, I can do, like, I'm gonna get both my goals today. So that was a really good feeling. I knew in that moment exactly like I had done it.
Yeah. That was so awesome. I was so excited to see you coming in. I was feeling the same thing. And I know I
Mhm.
wanted you to just run for fun,
Mhm.
try this out and see how it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, please, I hope I'm telling them the right thing. So yeah, so you
Yeah, I
look
mean, it was
great.
like it was a race where I kind of had just like these little moments of clarity while I was out there running. I remember at one point thinking like, I don't have my watch. I don't know what time I'm doing. No one else ever knows what time I'm doing. And I had so many people there cheering me on, regardless of what my time was. It was like that was like a big eye opener for me. It's like people are going to cheer for me no matter if I'm running faster than I am or slower than I have. It's like I have that support regardless of what times I run. And that was kind of like a big like sigh of relief for me in that race. It's like, okay, these people they have my back no matter what. And that was a big kind of burden that was released. It was really cool.
That's awesome. I know
Hmm.
from the podcast with Sam, she mentioned grounding techniques.
Hmm.
And she had mentioned that she does the tapping, but she
Hmm.
also mentioned um, football players that take their shoes off and walk around in the grass,
Hmm.
or something to make yourself feel grounded. Did you try any of those methods?
I did try the tapping. For me, it was difficult to try to get the rhythm of it down.
Mm.
That I tried it for the first time during that race, and I don't know, I just couldn't get into the rhythm of tapping my fingers along as I'm running. I was like focused on that, but also my footsteps at the same time. It was like there was a lot going on, and then I lose the taps on my fingers, and then I'd try to get it back, and it was like I would try it for like short little intervals, like maybe 30 seconds, try the tapping, and then kind of get back into it. And then I've been practicing it more since then, and I've gotten a little better at it. Like a lot of these really tough workouts that I've had to do over the last couple of weeks, I would, once it starts to hurt, I would try the tapping, and it's gotten a little better, but I still, for whatever reason, can't maintain tapping for too
Yeah.
long before I kind of like, I don't know, get a little crazy.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the workouts you've had with this new method of training
Yeah, well, they were a lot. They were big workouts, we definitely, with only the 3 days of running, put the emphasis of the miles on those 3 days. I think last week or the week before, in 3 days, I still ran 40 miles. So that, is quite a bit to do over the course of just 3 days. So, it was 3 by 3 mile repeats and a 20-mile run and just all these other the 15 by 1K workout. I was doing double-digit mileage for days and days and days without like a break in between. Just, the only break I really had was when I was on the bike. And when I was running, I was, okay, I'm going to be doing a half marathon today after work kind of thing.
Right, yes. And I know we increased your warm-up mileage too, just to
Hmm.
help with getting some good base miles in. So some of those runs. You had
Hmm.
3 mile warm-ups and
Yeah.
a mile or two cool down, and then all the speed in between. Like,
Hmm.
but from watching you run some of those runs, you seem to nail it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I mean, I think for me, just the fact that I wasn't running as much as I used to, there was always this kind of mental like voice in my head saying like, oh, we're like, you're not training the way you should be, you know? I kind of had this little demon on my shoulder the whole training cycle, just being like, this isn't gonna work because you're not running as much as you should be. But that just wasn't realistic, I was still getting all the same mileage in, just it was more condensed over a smaller amount.
uh,
So it took me a long time to kind of come to that realization, really until a week or so ago when I was like doing those 3 by 3 mile repeats and I was able to hit the goal times. And as painful and as difficult as it was at the time, I was like, oh, okay, like if it wasn't working, there would be proof that it wasn't working, but
right,
clearly it's working because I'm hitting the goal times that I would have been hitting had none of this happened.
right. I
So
think I think all of them. Your 15 by 1K was, we were having issues, I think, with the GPS and the new
yeah,
playground where we like to run. And
yeah.
but I think all of those 15Ks were right there. Your 3 by 3. I think you had some 800s, but we were a little bit condensed with the amount of time because taking some rest time. But
Yeah.
everything you did, the marathon goal pace miles that you had within this 20-mile run, um, that was is in these photos you can see it was pretty challenging, but again you nailed it.
Yeah.
Like, and it was pretty exciting. How did you feel during this run? Like, this is typically your longest run. You had
Hmm.
marathon goal pace miles in between. This must have been a confidence booster.
Definitely. I mean, for the first half of that run, I was definitely holding back the pace a little bit. And I remember it was like feeling good, but then by like mile 7 or 8, I was like starting to get a little antsy. I was like, I'm ready to just kind of let loose and see what I can do here. So then finally at like the halfway point, mile 10, I was starting to creep forward. And I think it was mile 10 or 11 that I was like right into marathon pace without kind of even realizing it. And it felt good and felt comfortable. So I kept it going. And yeah, I was able to maintain it through the end. And, kind of, I would have kind of like a up and down period, or it's like every 3 miles, I'd get a really fast one. And then I'd kind of taper off a little bit, but then I'd bounce back. And it was kind of just cool to see like, okay, so even when I fall off that fast pace, I can still kind of regroup and get it back.
Yeah. Sometimes that's hard. I know you and I have talked about that, where
Hmm.
at least when I've raced, uh, and it's been a little bit now, but I'll be like, oh well, I'm already off pace.
Hmm.
I've been off pace for a mile and a half. I'm not, it's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Resign. Okay, these people are past me. They probably deserve it more than me. I'm even
Yeah.
going to slow down more. And it's
Absolutely. Yeah.
hard to remember. No, 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 no. I trained really hard, really
Yeah.
hard. I had a
Yeah.
bad, 10 minutes. I'm going to get back into it, and you can recover and can,
Yeah. Yeah.
make up that difference. So the important thing is to just not give up.
No, yeah. And that was absolutely what did me in with this last marathon back in October. It was like once that pain set in and I fell off pace even just 10 seconds, I was like, oh, well, that's it. But like I've been really trying really hard. Like I've been having this fear of that happening again at Carmel, but like I've been trying to really practice like no, it's okay. Like if we slow down a little bit, you can get it back. So like even today when I went out for my 10-mile easy run, I started getting a little excited in the middle, so I was starting to pick up the pace. And then I was like, this is a little fast, let's slow it down a little bit. And then I would like be like, oh, I slowed down too much. So I focused just on, okay, well, it's just 1 mile. There's still 5 more after this. So we'll let this mile be what it is, and then we'll try again in the next mile. So I've been really trying
Yeah.
to focus just mile by mile, even just small little minutes at a time, trying not to look at the marathon as a whole big pizza that I have to eat all at once, but I can take it piece by piece.
Great analogy. We're having pizza tonight, actually. It's pizza night in the Nash house. So that's really great, because that's kind of just the slightest adjustment in thinking that's really
Hmm.
important to make so to
Hmm.
keep your mind in the right place. What are some other things that you did to protect your knee and to stay healthy? Like I imagine, I think you were doing some foam rolling, and like
Hmm.
why don't you tell us through some of your mobility and
Yeah.
that kind of thing?
So I started foam rolling twice a day, every day, or as much as I could, I would wake up in the morning, foam roll before I got in the shower, and then I would go and do my day, and then I would come home from work or wherever and foam roll again, and then I would ice my knee for 20 to 30 minutes. Besides that, I was using my Theragun to really massage and loosen up my thighs and my hips because I feel like a lot of the tension was like based in my hips. So just doing that kind of stuff, the hip mobility, definitely sticking to that routine. Um, I had been doing the strength training, but once the knee started to kind of flare up, I kind of eased off of that just to put less pressure on that knee. So that was one thing that was hard for me to let go because I wanted to really complete that. We made it halfway and I wanted to finish it out, but just some of those exercises just didn't feel great on the knee, so I definitely scaled that back. And it was really just, I guess, doing the little things right as much as I could.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
really super important. I know from recovering from my Achilles, I'm doing the same, the foam roller and the Theragun, and um doing doing those kinds of things. Well, it really does help. And I don't know,
Hmm.
for a while I just wasn't doing any of that stuff, thinking I can just muscle through this. But
Right. Yeah.
it's just faulty thinking. So that's awesome that you've been taking care of yourself and seeing your chiropractor you saw a couple
Hmm.
times.
Yep. Yep.
So we did our run around the bay. Oh, you can't see this one. I don't know if I could. Oh, I can move it. There we go. That's better. Um, so most of the listeners, I think, are very familiar with the Irondequoit Bay, but there's a bridge that connects at the end. It connects Irondequoit to Webster, but the bridge is taken down so boats can go through on April 1st. So on March 30th, right? Was it the day before, the day before Easter?
Yeah. The last Saturday before. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, last week.
Yeah.
We ran around the bay, and it was funny because you and Fatima had extra mileage, and then you still passed us. But and, um, my hope was that it would take some pressure off and just make running fun, not a
Yeah.
chore. How
Yeah.
did you enjoy that one?
I was really looking forward to it because I remember last year it being so much fun. Because it was, I think it just lined up like that last year we did it 2 weeks out from my marathon too. So it was kind of just like a fun, easy long, well, I don't want to say easy because it's definitely not an easy loop to do, but it's a fun kind of no pressure, no stress kind of long run to get in just before the marathon. And it's a good way just to remind myself that okay, this is what it's about. The marathon is the goal, but without these long runs, without these fun training runs, there'd be kind of no marathon to even run. So
Yeah.
it's about going back to kind of just running for fun, which is how I got into running. So
So when you train, why don't you tell us a little bit about your running community, your running family?
sure. Yeah. I mean, I come to your workouts every Tuesday night, and that has been such a huge, motivator and huge I guess just I want to say accountability factor almost too, because it's like without having a group to kind of keep me in check and without you being there to watch the workouts, I feel like I would definitely kind of not do them, do these workouts. Um, so that's been so helpful. And then I've been running with RRC on Saturday mornings for their group run. And that has been huge too, because, it can be so intimidating to do some of these long runs sometimes, and to do it by yourself is even worse. It's like you gotta really motivate yourself to get out the door and just find a route to go, or even just what direction to run in sometimes, because it's like if I got 16 miles, that could be anywhere. But when I run with RRC, it's like, okay, so the group is there. They kind of distract me from the miles. We talk, we laugh, we have a good time, and then I don't even have to worry about the route or the loop or anything like that. It's just, it's pre-planned. So I just go and run, and oftentimes I have to go out a little bit extra afterwards, but at that point it's only another 3 or 4 miles, and I feel like that's something I can do on my own any day. So
Right.
it's definitely been huge. And the other thing too, it's like it's nice to have this community of runners who are kind of going through the same thing, you know? It's like we may not be all running the same race, or we might not all have the same goals, but we're working at the same effort level, regardless of what our speed or what our strengths are, you know? It's like we're all striving towards these goals. So we're all encouraging each other, we're all, you know, cheering each other on. It's really nice to have that support, because I definitely didn't have that a couple of years ago before I linked up with you and we started working together. So
Uh,
it's been huge having that group.
I love the Tuesday group, and I love any other. I think it's a huge some if anyone's watching this and isn't involved in a group running group, to get yourself involved. And there's tons. You know, there's our Tuesday night group that works. We focus on speed and stamina, but there's pub runs, and there's Rochester Running Company, Medved, Fleet Feet. They all have social runs that are free too. Um,
Yeah.
so it's just a great way to meet people and meet friends, and to hold each other accountable. Because if you don't show up on a Tuesday, it's sometimes they're like, well, Nick's not here yet, but he's running a little late sometimes. Like, people know and look for you
Yeah.
on,
I'm
on
usually late.
Tuesday. It's a drive for some
Yeah.
people. But and they love cheering you on, Nick. Everyone's really excited about the race. I know we only have a couple of minutes left. It seems like you're in a good place. I know you're in a good fitness place.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts right now? A week from right now, you're done. You're
Yeah.
recovering.
Yeah. I'm still not at the point where I wanted to be as far as like 100% confident with this race, but I'm trying to look at it more from this fun point of view. You know, regardless of what happens, if I get my goal time or not, it's like a vacation. You know, I'm going to Indiana, which, you know, everyone asks me what's in Indiana, and I say, I don't know, but we're gonna go find out. It's like a nice weekend to kind of just explore some place that I've never been before. And I love using the marathon as an excuse to do that. You know, it's like I get to run 26 miles and look around at the scenery, you know? So, um, but I will say I'm feeling much better about this than I was 2 months ago, you know? Just the fact that I've been able to make it to this point, because I really thought there was going to be a point where my knee was just going to give out, and you know, I was going to have to sit and rest for 3 4 months and then lose all the progress I've made over the last couple of years and just start back from square one. So I was really afraid that was going to happen. But you know, the knee, it's still not feeling great, but it's holding its own. So at this point, I'm just trying to go and see what I can do. You know.
Awesome. And you have some fans coming with you to the race?
Yep, yep. So my mom, of course, is my number one. So she will be there. She's running the 5K, and Becky will be there too, also running the 5K. So it'll be nice to have a little group of supporters there on the sideline.
That's awesome. I mean, I bet it probably would be at least 25 people that would go and watch if they could. I know, me included.
Hmm.
I am so sad I'm not going to be there, but your mom, I'm sure, is going to keep me up to date with
Of
everything.
course, of
So
course.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but what's going to be next?
I have no idea. I really don't. I signed up to do the River Series again. So, you know, the first one is actually, I think, this week, but obviously I'll be taking a pass on that because there's bigger races to be run. So my first one in that series will be in May. And then after that, it's really, I think it's really going to come down to how this weekend goes. You know, if I get my goal, great, then I can plan on a fun one for the fall. And then if not, then okay, we'll take some time to rest, and then it'll be back to you know, finding one that will be good for qualifying.
And it could also be fun. So
Yeah, there's got to be a way to have both, right?
that's right. I do like that Erie one. That Erie
Yeah.
one in September is a good one.
Yep.
Oh, well, I'm so excited to have you on and to talk
Thank
about how
you.
this training block went. And again, you've been meeting every pace target for sub 250. Like, I'm really excited.
Well,
You're
thank
I know
you.
the time you had before was 256:12 or 17 or something like that, which
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
great time.
yeah,
Any other year it would have
yeah.
gotten you in.
for sure, but just not in the cards this year.
It's not this year, but it makes you more hungry for hopefully this one. So,
Oh yeah, I mean that's a good thing to look at too. You know, we had this plan to run Boston next week, and that went out the window. We had to regroup and pivot, and this whole marathon's just been the theme has been how do we pivot and make it work. So, you know,
awesome. So Nick, will you join me again in a week or two? Maybe I'll
of
let you
course.
recover, completely
Yeah, yeah,
recover
I'd
before.
be happy to.
And hopefully we'll have my co-host Alex Kroll back. She's in the UK,
Ooh, have fun.
enjoying seeing family and stuff in England. So she'll be back and then we'll get to talk to you. But until then, Nick, Godspeed. I am
Thank
praying
you.
for you and cheering for you. And I just know great things are going to happen.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for, you know, being such a great support through all this, because if I was on my own, like I said, probably would have given up long ago.
Well, I am honored. I think you're fabulous. You're very talented. So you make it easy, make it real easy. So, all right. Well, out there, thanks for listening and make sure you check out episode 20 to see how this story continues. Happy running, everyone.